When you play the Game of Thrones,
Subscribe and like.
or you die. There is no middle ground.
Welcome back to the Grease Goblins YouTube channel. Today's video, we're going to be talking about, is Robin Arryn actually Littlefinger's child? Now, I talked about Lysa in her ability to have children in the House Tully rant video, and that kind of sparked doing this video. This theory of Littlefinger being the actual father of Robin is a theory that's been always out there. I don't think I've ever actually talked about it in its own full dedicated video, but I want to talk about why it may be true and maybe some of the implications that that could have in the rest of the series. So let's do some groundwork. As we know, Littlefinger and Lysa had a relationship early on. Lysa seemed to have gotten pregnant by Littlefinger as Littlefinger took her maidenhead, thinking that it was Catelyn. So right away, we already have the, relationship that we need, that Littlefinger and Lysa had a relationship before Littlefinger even comes to King's Landing. We then know that Lysa gets Littlefinger multiple different positions, whether that's proving himself in the Vale or then coming to court and being the Master of Coin. At this point, we then start to hear rumors that Lysa and Littlefinger were having an affair. That is what is alleged. We don't know if this is concrete or not. But either way, there seems to be, at least based on their relationship following the events of A Song of Ice and Fire, and also previous to the events of A Song of Ice and Fire, it seems very likely that they could have had some sort of encounter. Now, I do want to point out, Littlefinger denies this, of course. Littlefinger denies being able to be the father of Robin. But I want to take a look at this. Is it possible? We know that Robin is born in the year 92 AC, which is about 5 years before the main story starts. Very close to the main story, and Littlefinger and Lysa definitely at least had some sort of connection. Could it have led to them sleeping together in King's Landing? That's a bit trickier, because for instance, people seem to know that Jaime and Cersei were sleeping together. It wasn't as big of a secret as it's made out to be, but it's more like telling people that secret. There's a lot that goes with that. Like, would Robert believe it? If you're like Varys or something, and you tell Robert this, is Robert going to believe it? Also, this is something that could create war in Westeros. Maybe it's not something you wouldn't even tell. Maybe it's a secret that should be kept a secret. Here, if it was Lysa and Littlefinger, I just don't know if Littlefinger would take that risk unless Lysa forced him. And so that's the big question you come to, because yes, given that Robin is a very sickly child, Jon Arryn and Lysa really struggle at having children, is it possible that, hey, maybe Littlefinger comes in and Lysa's then able to actually have a child? It's very possible. And especially when you think about the idea that Littlefinger is very short in stature, he's not as a physical imposing person, whereas the Arryns are said to be. If you even think about Harry the Heir and how he's described, much more of a bigger guy, much more stereotypical Arryn, whereas Robin is the very complete opposite of that. And also, if you even want to look at the Tully genes, the Tullys don't necessarily have small stature men either. I mean, Robb and Edmure, the Blackfish, all of those men, even Hoster, are all pretty big dudes. So the question then comes down to, what do you believe? Do you think that Robin Arryn is sickly, he's small because of Lysa struggling with childbirth? Or do you think that it's because of Littlefinger and his genetics? It becomes a very interesting question, because then when you get further into the story and you think about Littlefinger's actions, because right now it seems like Robin is being put on the chopping block to die. He's being overdosed with things like milk of the poppy, all of that kind of stuff to just control him at the moment. And a really interesting twist could be that if Littlefinger does end up having Robin Arryn killed, that Littlefinger is killing his own son. Now, the problem with this theory is going to become, well, Lysa is dead. There's really nobody that could confirm or deny this theory. So at this point, it's one of those theories, it's like, it's great, it's good food for thought, and symbolically could be very interesting to the story that Jon Arryn never actually even had a child with Lysa. In the long-term scheme of things, nobody can really prove any of that, and also nobody's even asking that question. So I think it's one of those theories that I think is really interesting to think about, because it could recontextualize a lot of events previously. It could be another reason why Lysa is so gung-ho to be with Littlefinger, because she knows Robin, his true father is Littlefinger. I just don't see that to necessarily be the case. I think Robin is a product of Lysa and Jon Arryn struggling to have children, and when they finally do have one, you have a lot of problems there. And I think it's also part of Lysa's parenting style and kind of the way that she's been damaged and the trauma that she's gone through. kind of rubs off into the personality of Robin as well, like nurturing him way too much, all that kind of stuff. So the theory, albeit, is interesting. I just don't think it really does anything for the series because there's no way you can confirm it. It's kind of the same idea of like, if you think about Aegon's conquest and then how the Dornish conquest ends, what's so interesting is how it ended because we don't know what was in the letter to Aegon and all that stuff. And there really is no way to ever confirm it outside of maybe the Martells have some sort of hidden thing that has been passed down into what actually happened there. That could possibly be very interesting. It could really recontextualize the history of the story. Whereas Robin Arryn, there isn't really that outlet there. Like outside of maybe somebody catching Littlefinger and Lysa in the act at King's Landing, there's no one to really confirm or deny any of this stuff. And Littlefinger himself is denying it as well. So the only thing I could see it possibly being of use is if Littlefinger, say the plan that he tells Sansa is not actually what he's planning, which is what I think to be the case. I think Harry the Heir is going to be killed more likely than Robin will, because stated plans just never go that way, especially when Littlefinger is the one telling you it. So if, let's say, Harry the Heir is dead, Littlefinger could try and leverage the idea that he was actually Robin Arryn's father. He could try and present a number of evidence in terms of Robin's look, how he doesn't look like the Arryns all that much, in terms of, his physical qualities, him being shorter, all that kind of stuff. He could do everything I presented to you guys if people believe this theory. But again, he has no proof. If you're somebody from the Vale, you'd be sitting here going, okay, this is very convenient. Lysa's dead. She never said anything about this. Now, Littlefinger, trying to gain even more influence and power, is suggesting that Robin is somehow his child. It would almost be looked at as dishonoring Lysa's memory. So I just don't see how this plays into the story. Even if it is true, I think the only thing it will really do would be, okay, very interesting to look at it as Lysa as a character and Robin if he is killed by Littlefinger. It adds that layer to the story. It's almost like the theory of the two children that Theon kills in A Clash of Kings to make it look like Bran and Rickon. There's a theory that those are actually his children. Whereas I think that's a really fascinating theory, and I actually subscribe to that theory a lot more than this one. It doesn't do that much for the series because you can't ever really confirm it. All it does is it makes the character interesting in terms of he killed his own children, right? He is a kinslayer type. It recontextualizes past events, but doesn't necessarily do anything moving the story forward. So let me know what you guys think. Did I miss something? Did I look over something? This isn't a theory I'm the most in-depth on, so I wanted to hear your guys' thoughts. What do you guys think about Littlefinger being the father of Robin Arryn? And I will see you guys all in the next one. Bye, guys.